What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look at the early impressions of InZOI. Now, I didn't even know that this existed until, well, they do the live stream, they announce everything they announced. We talked about it in a previous video, and I started going online. I started to see these reviews up, these early access reviews. I said, oh my God, they opened the floodgates for some journalists to get in there, and some content creators too. And, the title, I don't think is misleading whatsoever. I actually think it's more confusing for me than anything looking at all of this because, initially I'm seeing all of these write-ups, okay, a lot of the more written gaming journalists out there that are really leaning into this game, that there are significant issues beyond the fact that it's going to get improved over time. And that's something to kind of remember, I think, personally, with all of this stuff, right? That, you never really know. I mean, they've talked about what they're going to improve over time. And, if there are glaring issues with this game when it comes out, you imagine that they're going to also, try to fix those things as quickly as possible. So initially, I saw a lot of just bad stuff, being said. This is a very weak game, and I was like, oh my dear God, I'm planning on getting it. And then I saw more positivity, and I think just in general, it's kind of right in the middle. It feels like a game that in a couple different spots is already elite. And again, like, you have to use those terms like already, and it'll get there, right, for certain things, because it has progress to be made, over the next year or so after it comes out in early access. But it really seems like across the board, no matter what you're reading, no matter what you're listening to, it's the customization, okay, in terms of building or creating your character and characters. That's a really big strong suit of this game, whether it's just the customization options, the attributes in terms of like picking those personality traits, right? Like the 18 of them. I saw some people talk about that it was a cool thing. I saw some people that said, I really think a lot of people said it was cool. It's just, does it get implemented in the right way? I did see a lot of write-ups that were talking about, and at the end of the day, they felt like their characters weren't reflecting what personality traits they were giving them. But generally, like, the actual customization, the visuals, top-notch, and then also even just the building of, because you don't have to build, right? You could use kind of a pre-done, a preset type thing, or you could build. And all of those things, no matter who I saw, and I read like 7 different reviews, and I watched 2 different, like video kind of things. So I tried to get as many opinions as I could in short time, but those things were the absolute main, like, standouts, okay? No matter if the overall article was negative, they were talking positively about that stuff. It's really the other stuff. It's really, it's the life part. And that's the tough part, I think, with this game. It's going to be something that I look out for with this game too, right? Like, there's the building and the customization, that kind of creation side to things, okay? And it seems like the game does that quite well, even like to an elite level. And then there's, okay, well, now you have to play it. Now you have to live that life. And this is really where I think it probably depends on who is actually playing it, what their expectations were going in. But I will say, okay, there were some alarming things that I saw in terms of the write-ups. Like I said, I tried to read like 5-6 different things, and a lot of them talked about the mechanics kind of breaking down the deeper that you went in. Now, that's something that, you want to put stock into, but you also don't, because it's, again, these are things that you pray and you hope that they're going to add to this game. And, they've talked about it. They're going to have several big updates. And while some of the things in those updates are customization and, new things they can actually build or put in the game, right? It's also, okay, like habits and like how these characters are going to react and just different things in general. And that's really, I think, what's going to make or break this game, because, I saw some overall good things. I saw one YouTuber that talked super glowingly about pretty much everything in the game. And then everybody else kind of talked about, yeah, there's bright spots, but, it kind of falls apart in terms of the gameplay. What I guess I was noticing about the gameplay is I think it tries to stand out in some ways and then maybe falls apart in others. It feels half done, and I guess that's where that early access really comes in. That's the make or break. They're either going to have to make it feel complete at some point in this early access, or it's probably going to be a problem, right? Because you'll have cool features. You'll have those inner thought things, or the fact that you can kind of track all the relationships a character has with any other characters, plural, right? You can kind of see their history and the realism and just all the stuff. You can go to freaking jail in this game, right? You can buy a car. You can go to all these jobs. You can go to school. Like, a lot of ways they're jumping what you would have to get like 7 DLC packs for The Sims to do, right? But then there's the substance of like, well, you can only, I think, stack so many tasks on top of each other. It oftentimes break. It oftentimes doesn't feel fluid. I read one thing that said they made a married couple, and because the game starts everybody kind of on like a neutral relationship setting, although they were married, they didn't act like it. Like they actually didn't know each other at all, and they actually acted more like business partners than they acted like married. Now, I laugh, but actually that's not a good thing. I mean, if we're going to be serious, drop all the jokes, Alex, right? That's not a positive. I mean, I guess that's weird. That's a little bit of that kind of comedy that Sims actually did so well back in the day of tapping into, but that's not really how it's supposed to work, right? So like small things like that. Or I read one where it talked about the character just dying. It like they had all of their stats maxed out. They weren't hungry, they weren't sleepy, none of that stuff, and they just died. And it had them, you could turn back time before they died to try to fix it, and it might have been just a glitch because the character just kept dying over and over, so the person had to give up and just make a new character. So, you know, again, some of these things can be patched, and some of these things I don't think you can hold too much over the game, especially, you know, right out of the gate when they're very clear that this is early access, right? But these kind of substance gameplay flaws seems to be this game's biggest issue, where like it's so close to the realism. Again, it has all these specifics of like you can schedule hangouts, and some of this stuff sounds freaking awesome. So I'm not, look, I'm still getting the game, right? I don't want to make oh, Alex, all of a sudden you're turning on the game. I'm cautious, okay, because I'm gonna get the game. I want to experience it, but this might be a game that we have to wait quite a while for that substance and to really make it feel like a life sim game, okay? Seems like the customization and the creation part of it is already done. You know, I don't even know if they have to worry about that stuff going forward. It's really, okay, now when you actually get to play it, can we flesh this stuff out? And I also saw kind of mixed stuff with the AI. I think, again, those kind of like AI insight bubbles where it's those thoughts that pop up and you can type to your own character to try to influence them. I saw a lot of people that said like cool idea or cool concept, it doesn't really work. And even the glowing praise one that I watched talked about that it actually got repetitive. So that's an interesting one. And then there's an AI one where you can do like the images, you can have it create. I saw a lot of people tearing into that one where you can if you type in licensed things, it's going to give you absolutely nothing close. Even if you don't do a licensed thing, like a giraffe, I think one person did a giraffe and it was like an abomination. So, you know, they're using AI tools. I'll be honest, maybe I'll break the trend. Maybe other people like it. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. I mean, you know, if you can use it, again, maybe like that AI thought bubble thing is an interesting concept, but also when it doesn't work and it feels like outdated technology, which a lot of people are saying, right? Plus you're using AI, you could have just maybe tried to program it instead. That's not a good look to me, right? Because it's like, well, you're using AI, which is already a controversial one, and then you're using seemingly really bad AI that doesn't really work. So we're going to have to figure that one out, but you know, that's a feature. You don't, I guess, have to use that. It can enhance, if you call it that, in terms of the building side of things, and then the gameplay side of things. It also can kind of, and in fact, actually, it seems to enhance the building side of things more often than the other one. So that's what I've seen so far. It's an interesting game. It's one that I want to get. It's one that I am going to get, and it's one that I feel like we're going to have to be patient on. But, you know, I think it's fair to look at and say, okay, well, are there any like glaring weaknesses? I'll give you guys, you know, these are all other people's thoughts. I want to give you guys my own thoughts, and that's going to happen as soon as we get, you know, a hold of the game, right? So stay tuned to the channel. We'll have more videos on InZOI as the weeks go. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.